welcome to Myers ASMR. It's so nice to see you. I hope you're shaking off that stress and that mess, and you realize that it was not personal. Hey, you never get it done, and you cannot get it wrong. You never get it done, and you cannot get it wrong. Well, I know they didn't get this McChicken sandwich wrong. So I picked this up from McDonald's. I tell you, that value menu is, you could feed a family off of that. Well, maybe not, but the price, this was like less than $4. I don't think there's any sauce on here. Well, if you like, oh yes it is, there's mayo. Okay, I guess I bit the edge where there was no sauce. It's pretty decent. I actually live in a very urban area. I don't live on a farm, but the people across the street have these roosters on their front yard, believe it or not. the bangs right. I still don't think they're perfectly cut, but how I deal with it, I just fluff it up. So that is, and then I move it around, and then it's not so obvious once I fluff it up like that. And move it around, you can't really tell. It's a decent sandwich for when you're hungry and you need something quick and cheap. But it's not their tastiest. But it'll do in a pinch. That's how I see it. It'll do in a pinch. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Tazo teas are so good. This one is called Passion. It tastes like fruit punch. I mixed it with a little bit of my own home-brewed kombucha. A little dash of apple cider vinegar, because you know me. I gotta spruce everything up. I almost put my own sauce on that McChicken sandwich, but I wanted it to be authentic. Wow. My kombucha tastes nothing like the ones you find in the stores. Neither does my kefir, but that's because I don't add all that stuff that make it tasty. In fact, I just reminded myself I have some kefir under the sink that I need to take a look at. I forgot to put a towel over it to block out the light. makes it ferment way, way faster. But hopefully the cabinet under the sink is dark enough. But yeah, I don't add anything to my kombucha. Well, this time I put lemongrass essential oil just to give it a nice flavor. Otherwise, that stuff is hard to drink plain. A lot of commercial kombuchas add vinegar to it. That's why they taste fizzy. A lot of them taste like soda sometimes. Of course, they add sugar and probably some flavors. Who knows what else I mean, hey, I think that's great. I just don't go through all that. Usually I mix it with tea. And that's that. So this is the time in the video when I focus on getting better and better every day in every way. Isn't that great with the help of this People Smart book? This is a very smart book. And I am still on the resolving conflict chapter. Let's see how long it goes on for, because I think resolving conflict, oh, we're almost done with it. Resolving conflict is one of the greatest skills a person could ever learn. And these are the skills they really need to focus more on in schools, starting with probably daycare on up through college. Memorizing a whole lot of list of facts is just a waste of our time anyways. I'm not gonna get on that soapbox right now, okay? Because I talk about that too much. Alright. Oops. I did not put a check mark where I'm supposed to start. Okay. I think this is it. So basically, he's talking about overcoming your own barriers to lasting change, and he's giving anecdotes, examples, and then solutions to problems. I seem to have the same conflicts with my partner over and over again. Even when we do agree on a solution, nothing ever changes. Analyze what the conflict is really about. Are you arguing about procedures, competing goals, conflicting values? If you don't address the conflict at the appropriate level, you won't resolve it. Try to get the real issues on the table so you aren't just battling about positions. Probably one or both of you has basic interests at stake that aren't being addressed. Make sure your agreements meet both of your interests, at least to some extent. Plan out all the specifics of how you'll follow through, including a face-to-face evaluation of how it's going. Some people are just too sneaky and indirect to deal with openly. I try to be upfront, but they deny the problem, then stab me in the back. Acknowledge to them that, like many people, they might prefer not to engage in conflict, but calmly insist that you do have some issues to deal with and cite the evidence. Sometimes you can nip future sabotage in the bud by predicting it. Try asking the person, what do you think will happen in the future if we don't deal with this now? If the backstabbing happens anyway, remind the person that this was predictable. I can't stay calm or positive when someone attacks or insults me. Try to change your thinking about the attack so you won't take it personally. Recognize it as a symptom of the other person's distress or concern about the problem, and not as a reflection on you. If you can't solutions, and I don't know if I trust the other person to stick to an agreement. One reason people have difficulty generating solutions is that they start evaluating potential outcomes before they've allowed themselves to brainstorm fully. Make a strict rule for yourself and others against judging any possible solutions before you've developed a long list of options. If you're both stuck for ideas, consider inviting neutral parties to suggest alternatives. Remember that the best solutions will address interests rather than positions, allowing a greater range of possibilities. When you do identify the most promising solutions, allow time to think about them before making a final choice. And be sure to develop a clear implementation plan. Keep forging ahead even if you do backslide. With patience and persistence, you'll find that conflicts begin to seem more like opportunities and less like threats. Remember that the oyster produces a pearl by tolerating friction. And keep in mind that learning to deal with conflicts will help you in many situations. It will, for example, help you as you learn to become a team player. I was thinking about going on, but I think I'm gonna let that there marinade because it's really worth pondering and taking to heart, because I think we've all faced these situations with different people throughout our lives, and sometimes the situation just feels hopeless, or we get too frustrated to even deal with it. But when we have certain skills, it makes it a lot easier. I mean, I really could have used this book and this knowledge when I was a lot younger, instead of just writing people off and ignoring people and just throwing up my hands and just concluding that the situation wasn't going to get better. You know, that's how I dealt with a lot of conflict. I pretty much avoided and evaded rather than really try to get to the heart of what's going on here. But hey, once you know better, you do better, right? So remember that you never get it done and you cannot get it wrong. You never get it done and you cannot get it wrong. So, someone once asked me to tell them about me, to talk more about me. And I'm trying to think of a little tidbit that you might find interesting that I have not already spoken about. Well, I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I don't live in Newark anymore, but we had a house, and my parents were married till death did them part. My mother passed first when I was about 30. I guess I was 35. And I thought that wasn't the way I thought it was going to go. I did not picture her ever leaving us so soon while I was so young. But anyways, about the house, yes. We had a nice big house that we all lived in for decades until, of course, we all got good and grown. or so until I got my own place. I got a studio apartment and I started bartending. And bartending was good for me. I did that for a couple of years, probably no more than 3 years, until I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go back to my roots, which was being a paralegal. That's where I started my career after I graduated college. I became a temp paralegal back then. We're talking, I graduated in '97. So back then the legal industry was different. It was not as consolidated. There were many firms and it was easy to jump in at the entry level with no experience and just get trained. They had these big projects and they just needed people to do the, the office, the support work. And so I did pretty nicely on those temp projects, especially with the overtime, and that kept me going for a while. And then I just needed to do something different. You know, that industry can be hostile and hard. You really gotta get with a good bunch. But anyways, well, I guess that's it. That's all I'm gonna share for right now, and I'll leave other tidbits for other videos. Hey, if you like what I'm doing here, oh yes, I do have a lot of New York City experience. If anyone is interested in that, I have worked at many places in New York, especially as a temp paralegal. I've seen many of the great big firms, and they are amazing and impressive. So, no, it is not like Suits, okay? Most people are not that well dressed, and to walk around in stilettos all day, every day, and skin tight pencil skirts is very uncomfortable. So, I mean, I guess a few people dress like that, but in my experience, people were much more casual. Even many of the attorneys, if they were going to court, they would wear suits, and maybe the men wore suits more, but mostly the dress code is not so uptight like you saw on Suits. People were not dressed to the nines. No, it's much more laid back and casual. And even though the air can be a bit tense, I don't think everybody was always on edge and so full of hate and anger the way you saw on the show. I mean, you can't really function like that. Everybody's not out to get somebody all the time. That is not like that. I would say it's much more relaxed, and people that are just too busy for all of that. But anyways, hey, if you like what I'm doing here, like and subscribe. Donate to the cause. Catch me